You are listening to the Free to Be Mindful podcast, which invites you along on a journey to learn of mindful living, grow in mental health, and inspire through personal growth. In a world where we can often feel much stress and overwhelm, this podcast provides bite-sized tips and real talk conversations, empowering you to embrace mindfulness and nurture your full potential. I'm your host, Vanessa De Jesus Guzman, licensed therapist, retired educator, entrepreneur, and mom of two. I'm passionate about helping busy moms reduce the overwhelm and to live life intentionally without losing their, well, here we go. Hello and welcome to episode 214 of the Free to Be Mindful podcast. I hope that you're feeling good, looking good, and doing better in this world than you were yesterday. So if you're a regular to the podcast, you already are familiar with the fact that I had a baby girl this summer. And when I found out that I was having a girl, I was at first thrilled. I can't deny that. But shortly after, I was then scared. And I mean, really scared. Because after working as a middle school counselor for 14 years, I know just how vicious girls can be. And vicious in the terms of mean girl behavior that some may even call bullying. And don't get me wrong, because yes, of course, things can happen with boys too, but the way that girls can emotionally tear each other down can be really harsh and it can have a big, powerful impact on their lives. If you live in the US and you have school age kids, you may hear them talk a lot about the concept of bullying during the month of October because it is National Bullying Prevention Month. And by the way, I really, and I mean really, dislike using what I call the B word, bullying, because it's just so overused and sometimes it can be used incorrectly to describe mean behavior. And that's exactly what I used to call just jerky behavior. You can hear more about my thoughts in last week's episode 213. But going back to the middle school girl behavior, we often assume that this kind of behavior ends in middle school. And the truth is that it doesn't. It just becomes more subtle, and people learn to be more discreet with the below the belt comments. And before you realize it, you're facing the same kind of mistreatment as an adult that may or may not, you experienced as a kid. Believe it or not, a recent survey conducted by Harris Poll found that 31% of Americans have been bullied as an adult, and many, 43%, say that the behavior has become more accepted in the past year. That's a lot. And we know that it happens at work, but it also, and if you're a mom, I know that you know, it also happens a lot in mom communities, virtually and in person. Parental bullying is one of those hidden struggles of motherhood, I like to say, that just doesn't get spoken about enough. It's a form of adult bullying that can show up as mom shaming, making it tougher to navigate the pressures of being a parent. Because imagine that you're at a play date and another mom casually comments on how your toddler is still using a pacifier, followed by well, my kids were off the pacifier when they were 1 year old. Hmm. Or maybe you post a picture on social media of your kid eating a snack and someone feels the need to message you about how it's so full of sugar and what they would have given instead. And it's those little comments, which are sometimes meant to be helpful, but sometimes they're just disguised as helpful advice that can make you feel inadequate and judged as a mom. Mom shaming can come from friends, from strangers, or even family, and it leaves you questioning your choices, even though deep down you may know that you're doing the best you can for your kid. In English, they call it mom shaming. And I feel like in Spanish communities and probably in other cultures too, it's more like family helping by pointing out every single little thing you're doing wrong or that they think you're doing wrong. It's well meaning advice that somehow makes you end up feeling like you're failing at everything, even though they insist that it's just done out of love. Maybe it sounds familiar to you. I'm sure all of us experience it in some way or another because people just always have something to say about stay at home moms versus working moms, too strict versus too lenient, breastfeeding versus formula, screen time rules versus letting kids be kids, organic meals versus whatever gets them fed, co sleeping versus not, extracurricular overload versus letting kids being relaxed, celebrating big birthdays or just keeping it simple or having strict bedtime schedules versus letting your kids stay up late. The list can go on and on and on. And trust me, I do believe that we cannot walk around with fragile signs on our foreheads, as people will be people and they'll always have something to say. They'll always have a comment to make about the way that perhaps they felt that they did things better with their kids, or maybe a suggestion on how we can be better. So people will be people, and whether they intend it or not, as moms, you'll receive comments that don't land well with you, regardless of what their intentions actually were. So here's a quick three-step check to help you determine others' intentions despite their impacts. So the first is watch for their intent or their tone. How is the message being delivered? Is this something that can be taken like lighthearted or funny, or is there something else behind it? The second is, what's your relationship with that person? Is it someone who loves and supports you, or is it a random somebody or coworker that may not know you very well, or somebody actually looking to attack your parenting style? And the third is, how is the message being received? Does the receiver feel hurt, sad, angry, defensive? And if that receiver is you, really become aware with, well, why is it that it's bothering me so much? Because I did mention intention versus impact. Do I believe that my mom is trying to put me down when she says endless things about how I'm doing everything wrong with my daughter? No, she's not trying to put me down, but I'll tell you, it doesn't always feel good. But do I let it defeat me? I don't. Whenever you find yourself on the receiving end of someone's well intended suggestions or perhaps more direct criticism, here are some suggestions that can help you perhaps handle the situation. The first and my personal favorite, pause and breathe. Just take a moment before you respond. It may not be worth it to respond. A deep breath can help you stay calm and avoid reacting defensively. I use this one on a regular. Say thank you. Like, thanks. I'll think about that. It just acknowledges the other person's input without committing you to anything. Or you can deflect gracefully by using humor or a lighthearted comment like, oh, there's just so many ways to do this, aren't there? And that way you shift the focus a little bit from that judgment. You can set boundaries by saying things like, I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with the way I'm doing things. You can ask questions and just get curious about what they're saying. Ask them, why do you feel that way? That way it can give you a better understanding of their perspective, or at least just slow the critique down. The sixth, acknowledge it and move on. I see where you're coming from, and then change the topic fast. Or you can use I statements. I know everyone has a way of doing things, and this is the way that it works for me and my family. Or the eighth, be direct if you think it's actually needed, but still be respectful. Say things like, I know you mean well, but this is just what feels right for us. The ninth, try to be compassionate, especially with older people. Oftentimes, you're just trying to help based on what they know, even if it may not come across in that way. And lastly, if you're trying this and you still need a community to hear you out and provide support, the Amiga Moms Real Talks are back. I established Amiga Moms back in 2018 to empower moms to navigate the challenges of motherhood with confidence and grace while providing tools to reconnect with themselves. These meetups have a focus on mindful connection, on practical tips, and on a supportive community to help moms recharge and feel seen. During the pandemic, we went virtual, and now they're coming back to in person. Once a month, beginning on Saturday, October 12th in Richfield, New Jersey, we'll meet for an hour and a half to let go of the heaviness that's been weighing us down, to support each other, connect with fellow moms, and recharge so that we can step back into the chaos of motherhood, feeling lighter and more energized. You're invited to visit amigamoms.com to register. So, my friends, parenting is tough, and everyone seems to have their own opinions about the way that it could be done or should be done. But the truth is, there is no one right way to raise a child because every child and every mom and every family is different and unique. The most important thing is to trust your gut, trust those instincts, and surround yourself with people who get you and lift you up. So let's choose to support each other, to listen without judgment, and to share without criticizing. And if you're looking for a place where moms can share openly without fear of feeling shamed, remember that Amiga Mom Real Talks are here for you because we all deserve a space where we can feel understood and accepted. And if you know a mom in the tri-state area that this can be beneficial for, make sure that you share this with them by sharing the podcast episode or by sharing the website. I now invite you to join me on a short guided meditation. So, regardless of where you are or what you're doing, take a moment to reflect a little. Has there ever been a time that you doubted your own parenting style or yourself as a mom or parent? Take the time to reflect on a situation where you thought that you just couldn't get through that thing, but then you actually showed up well for your child, showed up well for you. What'd you learn in that situation? What did you see that you were capable of doing but couldn't have imagined it? Really take a moment to focus on your strengths and the power that you hold as a mom. Yes, we can read a lot of books and hear a lot of things and receive a lot of suggestions and criticisms, but deep down, we must learn on how to trust our own intuition and do what's best for our kids. Have the trust that you are the mom that your kids need you to be in the right here and right now. As always, my friends, thank you for listening in. And remember, in a world where you are free to be anything that you want to be, you are always free to be mindful. Catch you next week. Free to Be Mindful exists because of viewers and listeners like you. If you're enjoying the podcast or felt this week's show resonated with you, please take a moment to leave a rate and review on the platform where you catch your favorite shows. That quick and easy act allows me to see what you're enjoying so I can deliver more personalized content that focuses on learning, growing, and inspiring. It also helps others find the podcast too. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen along next week. And if you can do me the favor and share this podcast on social or with a friend who may benefit from the message shared today, that would be truly appreciated. In the meantime, I welcome you to follow me on social media across all platforms at Counselor V. De Jesus for more fun content. And remember, my friends, in a world where you are free to be anything that you want to be, you are always free to be mindful. Catch you next week.